It was a perfect Saturday morning, the kind where the sun feels just right and the air smells like fresh-cut grass. I'm 20, home from college for the summer, and I figured setting up a little table outside my parents' house in our cozy, tree-lined neighborhood would be a fun way to make some extra cash. I've been pouring my heart into making candles and wire-wrapped jewelry as a hobby, and Mom thought the neighbors might love them. So there I was, arranging my handmade crafts on a card table with a simple sign, "Handmade goods, do law 5, do law 15." The street was quiet, dogs were wagging their tails, and folks were out for their morning walks. It felt like the kind of day where nothing could go wrong. For the first hour, everything was golden. Mrs. Larson from down the block snatched up 3 lavender candles for her book club, RAVYing about how they'd set the mood. A young couple with a bouncy golden retriever picked out matching bracelets, joking about how they'd wear them on their next hike. Even Mr. Callahan, the grumpy retiree who barely says hi, stopped to admire my work, muttering, "Not bad, kid." I was riding high, chatting with neighbors, soaking in the sunshine, and feeling like maybe I'd found my summer gig. Then I saw her. She was in her late 40s, with sleek blonde hair, designer sunglasses, and a Sun VY Soar that probably cost more than my entire setup. She was walking a tiny white dog, but her eyes were locked on my table like I was selling stolen goods. I gave her a friendly wave, thinking she might want to browse, but she just stood there, glaring, then whipped out her phone. I figured she was texting and went back to helping a customer choose between a cedarwood and a vanilla candle. That's when she made her move. "Excuse me," she said, striding up with the confidence of someone who'd crowned herself queen of the block. Her voice was sharp, like she was scolding a kid for stepping on her lawn. "Are you aware that running a business in this community requires written approval from the HOA?" She spat out, "HOA, like it was the FBI. This setup is disruptive to our neighborhood's peace, and I'm going to have to ask you to shut it down." Now, I blinked, looking around at the empty street. A couple of dog walkers glanced our way, but disruptive? Really? "I'm sorry," I said, keeping my tone light. "This is just a little yard sale. I made these myself. I didn't know I needed permission." Her dog, looking embarrassed to be there, sat at her feet as she pulled out a clipboard from nowhere, like she'd been waiting for this moment her whole life. "A yard sale is one thing," she snapped, flipping through papers. "But this? Professional displays, price tags, soliciting customers? This violates Section 12.3 of our community guidelines on unauthorized commercial activity." I had to give her points for memorizing HOA fine print, but I wasn't backing down. "Look, I live here with my parents," I said, gesturing to my flimsy table. "I'm just selling a few candles. This isn't a store." Her lips tightened behind those sunglasses. "The support of clueless neighbors doesn't change the rules, young man. I'm reporting this to the board. Expect to do la 200 fine within 48 hours. She spun around, her dog scurrying after her, and marched off. I thought that was the end of it, just another HOA busybody throwing her weight around. A few neighbors who'd overheard urged me to keep going. Mrs. Larson even bought another candle, whispering, "Don't let her bully you, sweetie." So I stayed. About an hour later, I was helping a family pick out gifts when I heard her voice again, slicing through the calm. "Warren saw you," she declared, storming back with her clipboard in one hand and a massive tote bag in the other. Her name, I'd later learn, was Deborah Langley, president of the Willow Creek Community Standards Committee. "Since you've ignored our guidelines, I have no choice but to confiscate this illegal merchandise until the matter's resolved." I froze. "Confiscate? You can't just take my stuff. That's stealing." But Deborah was already grabbing candles and necklaces, VYing them into her bag like she was looting a clearance rack. The family I was helping stepped back, wide-eyed. "This isn't theft," she said coolly, crumpling my sign. "This is enforcement. These items are illegal, so they're subject to HOA confiscation." That's when Mr. Callahan stepped up, holding his phone like a weapon. "I've got this all on VY Deo," he bellowed. "Lady, I don't care what committee you're on, you're stealing." Deborah's smug look flickered, but she doubled down. "As head of the Standards Committee, I have full authority to enforce regulations. This boy's running an illegal business." She slung the bag over her shoulder and strutted toward her white SUV, its vanity plate screaming, HOA Queen. I shouted after her, "Give me my stuff!" But she just yelled back, "File a complaint with the HOA," and sped off. The street erupted. Neighbors poured out, phones in hand, recording the chaos. Mrs. Larson was already calling her lawyer's son. Mr. Callahan was still filming, muttering about posting it online. The couple with the retriever offered to be witnesses. I stood there, stunned, as the neighborhood buzzed like a kicked beehive. That night, I told my parents everything. Dad, a corporate lawyer, shook his head. "This is textbook theft," he said. "HOA or not, she's in deep trouble." Mom was Lee VYD, not just about the stolen goods, but how Deborah humiliated me in front of everyone. We called the police. I gathered EVY-densa photos of my table, receipts for my materials, and contact info for witnesses. By Sunday, Mr. Callahan's VY Deo was VY Row on the neighborhood Facebook group, racking up shares and angry comments. Local news jumped on it, with headlines like, "HOA president caught stealing residents' property." The VY Deo showed Deborah snatching my crafts, preaching about her authority. Turns out, this wasn't her first rodeo. Neighbors spilled stories of her finding people for Christmas lights, threatening to tow cars from driveways, even trying to ban kids from playing outside during her yoga time. I filed a police report with Officer Delgado, who watched the VY Deo twice, shaking his head. "I've seen HOA nonsense, but this? Clear-cut theft." By Tuesday, he called with big news. An arrest warrant was out for Deborah Langley for theft and harassment. The DA was MOVYing fast, thanks to the VY Deo and public outcry. Wednesday morning, I watched from across the street as police knocked on Deborah's door. She answered in a bathrobe, face pale as she saw the crowd of neighbors and reporters. "This is a misunderstanding," she insisted as Officer Delgado cuffed her. "I was enforcing HOA rules. He wasn't hot VYing it. Tell it to the judge, ma'am." The HOA board held an emergency meeting that night, kicking Deborah out and issuing a statement. No committee can confiscate property, period. 2 weeks later, I got my stuff back from the police. They'd found it in Deborah's garage, stashed with other confiscated items, garden gnomes, holiday lights, even a kid's chalk set. Her lawyer tried to spin it as a good-faith mistake, but the judge wasn't buying it. With the VY Deo, witnesses, and her history, Deborah got 6 months in jail, suspended, 100 hours of community care VYC, and had to pay me Dula $3,000 for lost sales and damages. In court, she gripped the table, muttering, "This isn't right," like she still thought she was untouchable. Looking back, I'm still floored by how far Deborah went and how the neighborhood rallied around me. It's wild to think a little yard sale could spark such drama, but it showed me what happens when power goes unchecked and what a community can do when it stands together. So what do you think? Was Deborah just a control freak who got carried away? Or did she genuinely believe she was protecting the neighborhood? Should HOAs have saw power to enforce rules like this? Or are they just breeding ground for petty tyrants? And what would Saw have done if you saw her stealing my stuff? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're as shocked as I was, and subscribe for more crazy stories like this one.